Wir sind da jetzt. Ja, genau, wir sind jetzt rauskommen. Ja, aber es rutscht sogar nochmal FC Bayern TV das Bild und deswegen. Ja, klar.
Ja, ich wollte nur nach Marken schauen. Das sind ja immer noch. Oh, es ist heiß.
Good afternoon and welcome to Munich's Säbener Street. It's 4:30 p.m. Monday, July 11th. Beautiful weather here in the Bavarian capital, and it's the first training session of Bayern Munich of the new season. Only one day after the European Championship final. It's day one for Carlo Ancelotti and Bayern Munich. And we're fortunate to be able to present to you an unusual amount of celebrity football players here at this first Bayern training session. Of course, particularly considering that a major football tournament ended only yesterday. Holger Badstuber, I've already seen come out. Philipp Lahm, Xabi Alonso, Javi Martinez, Sven Ulreich, Tom Starke. Here is the back of the head of Franck Ribéry. Couple of youth players as well. Mehdi Benatia in the background, and Rafinha. Of course, usually at Bayern Munich in the immediate aftermath of a World or European Championship. Usually, at least, the bulk of the professional team still missing after they've only basically just started their well-deserved holiday. But it's a bit of a different situation this time around here at this first public training session. You can hear the applause in the background. Couple thousand fans here at the training facilities at Säbener Street. To the right, the squad, and now in the background, the new coaching team of Bayern Munich. Head coach, of course, Carlo Ancelotti. Then a few familiar faces, Hermann Gern, of course, a couple of physical fitness trainers that we're all aware of and that are still an unchanged part of the team, but also a few new faces here. Paul Clement, Davide Ancelotti, Giovanni Mauri, Francesco Mauri. We'll go through all of these new faces, and of course you can gather information by yourself also on our website. As we go along, we hope to be able to bring you several live training sessions. We know how popular that is with the Bayern fans, and before I forget to mention that the next live training session will already take place here on FTB TV on our social media channels on Thursday at 10:30 Central European time in the morning, when Carlo Ancelotti already conducts what I think will then be the fourth or fifth training session at Bayern Munich. It's going to be a busy start for the Bayern players again. Now that everyone's out on the pitch, I'll give you a quick run through of who we're looking at here. You can see Rafinha at the front of your screen, but also Arjen Robben, Holger Badstuber. They've been working basically through the entire summer to regain their comeback, to be fit in time for this training session, for the start of the official pre-season. Juan Bernat is here again. Philipp Lahm and Xabi Alonso, who retired from their national team. Same goes for Franck Ribéry. Javi Martinez is here. Mehdi Benatia, the two goalkeepers, Sven Ulreich and Tom Starke. Also, a few youth and reserve team players here. Fabian Benko, some of you will recognize. A couple of under-19s player that I'll talk about in a little more detail probably on Thursday or in the upcoming public training sessions, depending on the amount of training sessions they can conduct with the first team. Today, let's see what happens. We're, to be honest, looking forward to a slow start here. A couple of warm-up exercises, I'm sure, some physical exercises, but I'm sure Carlo Ancelotti will go into more detail, of course, more tactical work, more physical work as the training sessions and the training week evolve. So, right now, let's enjoy what we're seeing. Let's enjoy this first training session live from Munich's Säbener Straße. Let's sit back and let the Bayern players do the work. The temperatures here are around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It's really humid, one of the hottest days of the year so far, if not the hottest days, and of course more fun to watch that and to be a part of this training team. It's the first training session of Bayern Munich of the 2016-2017 season.
Oh, okay.
Schade, da waren wir alle ein bisschen deprimiert.
Und du hast sie nicht aufbauen können?
Ja, ich habe mal versucht, sie aufzubauen und so, aber so richtig begeistert waren sie nicht. Ne?
Nein, das war nice.
Ja, am sonnigen Tag sind sie grundsätzlich bereitwilliger, länger hier zu arbeiten, wollte ich gerade sagen. Ich glaube, die viel machen. Ich war einmal, es wieder einmal erlebt, das war letztes Jahr nach Audi. Der erste Tag danach, da dachte ich so, okay, alle, die gespielt haben, die werden ja sicherlich im Leistungszentrum sein. Aber es waren alle draußen, ich habe irgendwie alle zusammen ein Programm gemacht. Es war relativ kurz, weil es auch total heiß war. Und danach hat Pep die Anweisung gegeben, dass jetzt alle Autogramme schreiben und fertig. Das war cool.
Das ist cool.
Das habe ich nur einmal so erlebt.
Okay.
Die Leute, die kaufen auch darüber stellen. Okay, danke. Ja, der Thomas ist schon dran, aber du musst den Thomas stellen, den schreibt man ihn jetzt nicht.
It's a bit of an unusual sight here. Carlo Ancelotti, such a successful manager, a former very successful football player, coach of course most recently at Real Madrid. Here he is for the first time in full-on Bayern gear, next to his son Davide and Hermann Gerland, his assistant managers. Earlier today, press conference in the Allianz Arena. Carlo Ancelotti spoke a little bit of German there, a little bit of Italian, and predominantly English. A cosmopolitan man who I think already gave us a bit of a first glimpse of what his plans are at Bayern Munich. He was of course asked if he can fulfill the treble dream that the Bayern fans have, and he mentioned that every major club wants to win the Champions League. He said the key is to be competitive, and to be competitive basically means to repeat what Pep Guardiola did in terms of the statistics, and that is to reach the Champions League semi-final each year. But he said, of course, the Champions League semi-final isn't enough for Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich's goal, at least, has to be fully competitive, to go into a season wanting to win the Champions League. But of course, he also mentioned that unfortunately there are several other major clubs that have the exact same goal. Every European top club enters the season wanting to win the Champions League. But he also mentioned that he's very happy with his squad. There are very professional, very serious players at Bayern Munich, a great attitude within the team. He was also very happy with the new signings. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge confirmed that Ancelotti was, of course, involved in the most recent signings at Bayern Munich. And another inevitable question, of course, was asked if Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and Carlo Ancelotti can rule out any further pre-season summer signings. And both were a little hesitant there, saying that they're very happy, and Carlo Ancelotti in particular said he's extremely happy with the Bayern squad. But today is July 11th. The transfer window is still open to August 31st, and you can never rule out the possibility of the odd new player. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge also reminded the press that Bayern have been in that situation before, when this man at the center of your screen, Javi Martinez, sustained a severe injury in the Super Cup against Dortmund a couple of years back. Bayern were forced to react on the transfer market, even though it wasn't part of the plan. Let's hope that Bayern don't face a similar situation this season, that no one sustains a serious injury during the pre-season, but that everyone can stay fit. Julian Green, I forgot to mention here in the blue shirt, also part of this training squad. And let's see if the man in the yellow shirt can actually conduct every training session in this week. I'm not quite sure if Holger Badstuber is 100% fit yet for every single training session, and particularly to conduct all of these upcoming training sessions after his long injury break. Arjen Robben seems to be ready. He's on the left of your screen and fit enough to do so. Philipp Lahm, I assume as well. We'll, I'm sure, talk to Philipp Lahm in the weeks to come, and I'll be particularly interested to find out how he actually spent his holiday. For players like him and Xabi Alonso, you might have seen the post-season interviews we conducted with these very experienced players who mentioned that they've never had such long holidays before. But looking at Philipp Lahm now, and considering how professional he is and how professional players like Xabi Alonso are, I'm convinced they will not only have spent time in a hammock watching the European Championships, but they will have worked pretty hard in training as well. Holger Badstuber I don't really believe had much of a rest at all, or much of a break. Of course, long break from competitive action, but he's been working ever so hard, as has Arjen Robben, on regaining his fitness, particularly in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Robben and Barnstube were here pretty much every single day, working hard with the physical coaches to be back in time for this day, for day 1 of Bayern Munich's pre-season. But again, we'll keep an eye out on which players can actually conduct the full training session today and which players can remain a part of the training group for the upcoming weeks. I assume we're not really going to see a full training session today, a training session in the sense that the players will go to the limit here. I assume it will be a bit of a warm-up training session. It'll be interesting to see how long it lasts as well. But again, we'll stay tuned here and watch Xabi Alonso, Franck Ribéry and the other Bayern stars train. And again, Thursday, 10:30 CET is the next live training session already here on FCB TV. This, by the way, you're talking to Philipp Lahm and Arjen Robben, is the new assistant coach Paul Clement, one of several new faces at Bayern Munich, most recently at Derby County, but already assistant of Carlo Ancelotti for Real Madrid and PSG. Walking through the screen just now was Toni Tapalovic. On the far right of your screen is Thomas Wilhelmi, one of the physical coaches. Also Holger Breu, head of the physical coach department. Again, Hermann Gerland in the center. So it's a mixture of some new and some old faces, so to speak. And as always, marching forward, leading the group, Xabi Alonso, Philipp Lahm.
Wir bleiben hier 9 Minuten und dann wir wechseln. Okay? Wir fangen an mit nur Ballführung nach rechts. Ballführung. Ballführung, Ballführung. Bewegung in die Spitze. Wir spielen den Ball und wir bleiben hier. Okay? Nach rechts. 1 Minute. Klar? Ready? Hier. Nach rechts immer. Ballführung, Bewegung in die Spitze, Ball. Nur rechts. Ja. Okay. Nur rechts. Pass immer rechts sein. Bevor Bewegung und dann wir spielen. Bewegung. Und Pass. Gut. Qualität. Tempo. Gut. Viele Kontakte. Bewegung und Pass. Ja. Kontakt und Pass. Gut. Bien. Okay. Pause. 30 Sekunden und dann. Dort. 3 dort, bitte. Das gleiche. Das links. Okay. Ein bisschen Stretching. Pause.
Recovery, we go left side. There's a small movement before. Short, long, short.
Okay. Nach links. Das gleiche. Viele Kontakte. Und Passe an rechts Seite.
So a pretty simple, straightforward exercise here. First, players move to their right only. In case you missed that, only using their right foot, and now they're going to do the same thing towards the left, clockwise, only using their left foot. As predicted, a fairly slow, reasonable start to this first training session.
Bewegung und Pass.
Rhythm's good. Good. Head up.
Okay. Pause.
Continue.
Da immer stretching, eh? Immer. Zwei Kontakte. Bewegung, offen, Kontroll und Pass. Okay, Bewegung, Pass, Kontroll rechts und Pass. Zwei Kontakte. Okay? Und wir gehen. Zwei Ball. Hier.
Okay, here we go. A little bit more technical.
Bewegung. Bewegung an rechts Seite. Immer. Immer Bewegung. Und dann der Pass. Gut.
Yeah, around the cone. Around the cone. Good.
Genau.
Short. Spin it around the corner. Outside of the foot. Good.
Buena raza. Sí.
Outside of the foot.
Xabi.
So I think the first exercise, probably doable for most amateur players. It's starting to get a little more difficult now. Only 2 touches. If you look at the distance here between the posts, that's something that a lot of lower league or pub teams would already struggle with. Seems as if Carlo Ancelotti is letting his team in gently, but then picking up speed. We'll see how this training session keeps evolving. Again, it is excruciatingly hot here in the south of Munich right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see extremely strenuous physical exercises today.
Wait. Vai. Come. Okay. Sì. Links Fuß.
Sì, Frank.
Oh, scusi.
Next ball. Pass along the floor.
Immer die Bewegung, eh? Immer.
Defender. Knock it round it.
Wie Philipp. Gut. Links. Guter Pass. Sehr gut.
Lots of left foot.
Sì. Links benutzen, eh? Gut. Gut. Okay, Pause. Okay. Nach rechts. Bewegung, komm hier. Doppelpass. Okay. Immer nach rechts. Wir fangen hier an. Nach rechts. Sí. Nein. Bewegung nach die Kontrolle. Kontrolle, Bewegung, Doppelpass. Nee. Kontrolle, Bewegung, Doppelpass.
The last position, go with the ball.
Schnell Doppelpass. Schnell. Nee. Gut.
Start the second ball.
Schnell. Gut.
Change play. Follow the pass. Change play. Follow the pass. Change play.
Rechtzeitig die Bewegung.
It's another image we'll probably have to get used to, at least in these public training sessions, whereas Pep Guardiola was sprinting around the pitch here shouting commands at his players. Carlo Ancelotti, at least in previous clubs, has a bit of a more distanced approach, lets his assistants do the day-to-day training work and observes. But as you can see, these exercises are becoming increasingly demanding here on the players. Not that superstars like Arjen Robben would have major difficulties conducting them, but after a slow start, it's picking up a little bit, and Ancelotti seems to be quite happy here. He mentioned earlier how happy he is with the players, with everything really, with the club, with the opportunity to be able to train here, with the city of Munich, which he's visited before and which he likes very much. And he also commented on the contract talks, which he basically summarized in saying that Bayern and himself, they had agreed immediately. Bayern wanted me, and it was my desire to manage Bayern Munich. It was a fast and honest decision, and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge said the same thing basically. He said they met a while back. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge simply asked the question, can you imagine being the manager of Bayern Munich next season? Carlo Ancelotti said, yes indeed, I can very much so imagine doing that. And that it sounds as if that was pretty much it. Of course, the contract details had to be discussed, and I'm sure there were a lot of details to discuss after that, but the basic decision, the agreement in general to coach Bayern Munich, that seems to have been a very easy, short affair, quick decision by both parties. And it's players like Bernat, Martinez, Robben, Lahm, Alonso that Ancelotti will of course rely on in these first couple of weeks and maybe first couple of games already to perform for Bayern Munich. You can check out on our website which dates are coming up exactly. First match on Saturday against Lippstadt, that's Karl-Heinz Rummenigge's home club. Then a test match against Manchester City, the first game of the preseason in the Allianz Arena coming up July 20th. Then another test match against a local rival, a local team from Landshut, fairly local that is. And then from July 25th to August 4th, Bayern Munich are going to be on the so-called Audi Summer Tour, featuring games against AC and Inter Milan as well as Real Madrid. First competitive game, if you consider it competitive, is then 10 days later in Dortmund, the DFL Super Cup, and then a week later on the weekend of August 20th, the first DFB Cup round and away game against FC Carl Zeiss Jena. Finally then on August 26th, that's a Friday evening kickoff, Bayern Munich opened the season as the reigning champion against Werder Bremen. Obviously a lot of the players still missing from Carlo Ancelotti's squad. You can basically do the math yourself. The players will all have somewhere around 3 weeks of a holiday, so you can figure out which players dropped out of the European competition when, and then roughly find out when the players will return to the Bayern squad. No exact dates set, at least not publicly yet. The last man, I assume, to join Bayern Munich's training squad will then be Douglas Costa, the Brazilian who's going to feature in the football team of the hosts of the Olympics in Rio. But that will be the last player to join the squad. Most players will have returned before or during the Audi Summer Tour of the US, which takes Bayern to Chicago, Charlotte and New York. And again, the first game that Bayern Munich conduct, the first test game, which will most certainly feature a couple of amateur and youth players, as well as on July 16th against SV Lippstadt 08. Exclusive highlights of which will be, as always, on FCB TV and also on our social media channels. So after we really haven't had to endure much of a football break this summer, the action continues here at Bayern Munich. A lot of test games, a lot of training sessions coming up, and of course we'll be as close as possible and bring you the latest news, live training sessions, exclusive interviews. You probably already saw there's a news featuring exclusive interview with Carlo Ancelotti already up on our social media channels. The press conference was streamed live, and we're going to try to, as always, keep you in tune with as much action as possible, and thus accompany Carlo Ancelotti in his first weeks, hopefully the beginning of a successful era. He was actually asked today in the press conference if he can imagine this would be his last job as a coach, and he said, no idea. I wouldn't mind staying at Bayern as long as Sir Alex Ferguson. If that happens, then it's definitely going to be my last job as a coach. A little tongue-in-cheek his answer there.
Über dritte Spiele. Was? Was? Dritte. Okay? Was? Dritte. Ein bisschen schwieriger, aber hier mit dem Kopf.
First movement is short.
Was? Ja, dritte. Immer nach rechts. Ja. Gut. Zieh Juan. Juan. Ready? Okay. Ja. Ja. Molto bene, muy bien. Sehr gut, sehr gut. Sigue, dai. Roll. Ja. Okay. Okay. Ja. Ja. Die Julie. Gut. Rechts. Rechts. Ja, Tommy. Ready. Ready. Chiamati. Ja. Right, dritt. Juan. Tommy. Ja, ja. Gut. Bravo, Tommy. Gut. Hopp. Juan. Da ben je stark. Ja. Goed. Hop. Goed. Right. Buona. Spielen. Ready. Javi. Bien. Ja. Okay, muy bien. Sehr gut. Aufgangsposition. Pause.
Arjen Robben will be loving this. Missed the end of the last season, but such a determined, diligent worker, and as I mentioned earlier, worked so hard during the summer to regain his fitness. Probably the Bayern player who was furthest away from the European Championship in person and in mind. He admitted that he hardly watched any of those games, but enjoyed the fact that he just wasn't involved as much. again, it'll be interesting to find out, and we'll bring you some interviews with players like Xabi Alonso, Philipp Lahm, players who throughout their career, and I suppose the same goes for Arjen Robben, always took part in these major tournaments and had very busy summers, and if anything, had to suffer through very short recovery and rehabilitation period. It's all different now. Let's hope that they can benefit from this. Same goes for Franck Ribéry in the background. Arjen Robben, these two icons of FC Bayern Munich. Definitely looks super fit here, Arjen Robben, but that's obviously no surprise. And again, Robben happiest when he does this, when he's in training and when he's doing his best. You can see it in the faces of some of the players, slowly but surely breathing a little heavier. Philipp Lahm, Franck Ribéry breaking out into a sweat and already panting a little bit here. These exercises look fun, but the longer they last, the harder they become. And again, we're looking at 90 plus degrees temperatures here in Munich. And this is all taking place in the blazing sun. Next exercise coming up.
Seine Entscheidung. Ich kontrolle. Wenn Juan kommt, Doppelpass. Wenn Juan geht, in die Spitze. Immer das Gleiche. Nach rechts. Und dann das Letzte nach links. Ist das klar? Abbiamo due possibilità, mi dici. Capito? Uno, due oppure vai nello spazio.
Müssen wir da spielen? Da? Für ihn.
Ja. Kommt hier. Okay, dai. Komm, Doppelpass. Ja. Komm, Doppelpass. Nein. Harry. Okay. Sempre con lui. Wir dürfen sprechen auch, wir dürfen sprechen. Doppelpass.
I think now all pub leagues and Sunday football players would fail. This is one-touch football. It doesn't always work, as you can see, but it is becoming increasingly more demanding here.
Pause und dann das letzte.
Two touch. 1, 2. Next, play. Let's go again. More rhythm.
Okay, nach links. Das Gleiche.
Next ball, play.
Ja. Nein. Bien. Ja, top. Gut. Gut, Julien. Hier. Sì. Sì, fagli vedere bene come... Sì. Dai, sigue. Dai, 30 Sekunden, vamos. 30 Sekunden. Sì. Hier. Ja, gut. Die habe ich aquí. Sì. Zeigen die Bewegung. Ja, gut. Sì. Dai. Ja. Sì. Oh, da. Sì. Nein, gut. Ja, bin hier. Hier. Okay, bien. Sehr gut. Hier, ja.
Ja, das geht aber von der Mitte, von da drüben aus. Herr Galland, wenn wir in die Richtung gehen.
Nee, wir müssen aber hier hin, ne?
Ja, ich versuch's, aber wir haben halt...
Carlo Ancelotti there, just talking to his son Davide Ancelotti. As you saw, Davide and Paul Clement conducting the exercises for these two groups. Also Giovanni Mauri in the background. Again, there's some or several unfamiliar faces we have to become accustomed to, but I'd say that's maybe the first real major change that we can see here. I wouldn't put too much emphasis on these exercises here. Again, it's super hot and training session number 1. But Carlo Ancelotti is in the background a little more than Pep was, although he's speaking to the team now. But I think it's the first address of Ancelotti to the entire team, at least out here on the pitch in the first training session. And apart from that, his assistant manager is obviously taking over the day-to-day training work here. I'm sure we'll be able to go into a little more detail as the sessions, as the weeks pass. But I think it's the first time in this training session that Ancelotti actually gets involved himself. He said that the relationship to the players is the most important aspect of a manager's job. He has an idea of football and he has to convince the players that this is the right idea. He has to make sure that these players are comfortable with this idea, because of course they have to go out onto the pitch and adhere to this idea and follow his suggestions, follow his philosophy. I thought remarkably he also said if the players aren't convinced of his idea, he'll change it, no problem. But he's of course known to be a manager that actually has a very good relationship with his players. Superstars like Ronaldo, Ibrahimovic have commented on the wonderful work with Ancelotti and have commented on how highly they regard him personally as well. Here he's making some friends with the players. First time under Ancelotti that the players actually get to play a little bit of football, a competitive game. Here, not as easy and straightforward as you'd find in many other lower league football clubs, but the ball's involved, they're playing against each other. Nothing more fun than that for the players. Let's enjoy this and hope we see some exciting moments now. Holger Badstuber, the man in yellow, a bit of a free agent here in this game. Team Blue playing from right to left, trying to score against the left goals. But they're facing away from the pitch, basically, so That's something that we never saw under Pep Guardiola, at least not in public training sessions. And that's what the players, of course, I think we're looking forward to in the upcoming weeks and days in particular. Just some new exercises, a bit of fresh wind. You can see how the team in red now basically barricades that goal. Now they'll have to make their way across the pitch again. Here's a long ball forward. Let's see. It's a good opportunity there. Nice pass by Philipp Lahm. I assume you get the idea. Again, Badstuber, the man yellow, a free agent, teaming up with whichever team's in possession. Blue has to score on the left, goals. Team red on the right. Let's see if we have a winner.
Gut, bis gleich.
Zeigt. Gut, die kann. Nee, nur ungefähr, dass wir. Also, 1 Minute, 2x6 Minuten noch. Ja. Stunde in die rein. Wenn ihr die jetzt schon reinfahrt, ist es falsch. Nö. Aber ich weiß es nicht. Also bis auf weiteres Lösen ist das anders. Ich meine, wenn ihr bis dahin
Springen jetzt, normal. Normal, wenn jetzt geht. In der Pause können wir noch springen hier.
Good to see that Holger Badstuber is obviously conducting this training session without any major problems. On the contrary, he seems fit and happy. And one of the last players to have a drink here, if he even had one. Doesn't seem to be too tired now. And again, in case you joined us later, the temperatures here in Munich are excruciatingly hot today, which is why we're seeing several breaks. All the training sessions, well, most of the training sessions, I should say, this week is scheduled for the early evening or late afternoon. And as fun as these exercises might be, when you play a competitive little training match here, don't forget, unlike normal football games, there's really no break in this game. No throw-ins, no set pieces, no controversial offside decisions. That means it's non-stop back and forth here for the players. And again, as fun as that might be, it is really, really hot. And after a while, it starts to get really, really hard. A fact that doesn't prevent these players from doing their best here. It's an opportunity, of course, for the youth players in particular to stand out, to impress Carlo Ancelotti if they can. We've had that in the past in several generations of young players that were able to impress their coaches and use the opportunity of this diminished squad. Arjen Robben always going in for the kill. One recent example of a youth player, Julian Green, for instance, has been in the situation before. Gianluca Gaudino was one of the young players, Heuberg, a couple of years back, who just used these pre-season sessions where a lot of the key players were still missing from the squad to impress. The ideal development then for a young player is that the coach decides to integrate this player into the training squad for the rest of the season, maybe even sign a professional contract if that hasn't already taken place anyway. But then it's also an opportunity, of course, for players like, let's say, Juan Bernat, Javi Martinez, possibly Mehdi Benatia, to cement their position in the squad before the others return. Rafinha is another good example. Franck Ribéry, Arjen Robben. All players that, like everyone else at Bayern Munich, face pretty stiff competition now on their positions. Carlo Ancelotti, of course, loves that and mentioned earlier that he believes this squad is competitive because every position is covered. You've got at least 2 players for every position on the pitch. But it's issues like Javi Martinez, just as a random example, who was used by Pep Guardiola more as a centre-back. Will he possibly return to holding midfield under Ancelotti? Or will he be so impressive in these first few weeks that he could possibly challenge Jerome Boateng or Mats Hummels for a position in the centre-back? Same goes for Mehdi Benatia. No lack of motivation here, and no lack of determination in this training game. As you can see, many fans at Munich Säbener Street are enjoying themselves. They're watching Holger Badstuber score a goal here, applauded by Carlo Ancelotti. If, by the way, you're ever in the area, if you ever decide to come to Munich to visit a game, you should definitely check out the Bayern website and have a look and see if there's a public training session that's accessible to the public. Obviously, during pre-season in the winter break, you're more likely to catch these sessions, but we'll have to wait and see what Carlo Ancelotti decides, if there'll be a return to more public training sessions even during normal football weeks. Usually it's not possible during Champions League football weeks or DFB Cup weeks, simply because there are only 1 or 2 real training sessions the players can conduct a week, and the coaches want to practice tactics or refresh the tactical knowledge of their players. But during the preseason and sometimes during quiet weeks with only weekend matches, coaches do the fans the favor, so to speak, of opening up the gates here at Munich Säbener Street and allowing fans in to watch the public training sessions. So again, if you're in Munich ever, you should check that out. It's always worth a visit. You'll see some of these superstars up close and personal. A couple of nice goals and a lot of skill, which of course becomes apparent the closer you are to the action.
Deine Leute laufen. Das ist ja nichts los, also muss man fairerweise sagen. Schauen wir mal, Donnerstag ist Vormittag, da wird ein bisschen schlimmer. Ja, zeig. Bitte. Links. Nur Donnerstag. Zeig. Ja. Ruhig. Was? Oh.
Another little refreshment break. Time to give you an update. Bad and good news, I suppose, in one for Bayern Munich. I'm not quite sure yet about the details, but it's just been made official that Douglas Costa will in fact be unable to participate in the Olympic Games, and he will return to Munich soon to train here and to start his recovery program from injury. He's just not fit, not healthy enough to play the Olympic Games, although even if Karl-Heinz Rummenigge said that Bayern really regrets that, because they wanted to do Douglas Costa the favor after he expressed his willingness to participate in this possibly once in a lifetime or a very rare opportunity that I think most players really would enjoy. But again, Douglas Costa, that's a very current update here, will be unable to participate in the Olympics, but will instead return to Munich soon. If he hasn't even returned to Munich already, I'm honestly not quite sure of that right now, but he will be in Munich in the next couple of weeks, that's for sure, and will conduct his rehabilitation and recovery program here. That might actually, that's why I mentioned good and bad news for Bayern Munich, might not be the worst news for Bayern Munich, because everyone expected Douglas Costa to miss the first couple of competitive games due to the busy schedule involving the Olympics. Now that might change. We will of course keep you updated on the Bayern website how Douglas Costa's recovery program develops. This sliding tackle just now, not the first pretty rough challenge during this training game. Nothing unusual at all. It just illustrates what I mentioned earlier. This is not your friendly kick in the park on a Sunday afternoon. The players are hugely competitive. That's part of what it takes to become a professional in the first place, obviously. And relentless too. Ribéry scoring, Philipp Lahm scoring. I think, I'm not sure 100%, I didn't really keep count, but I think Team Red is up by possibly 2 goals. I'm not quite sure, to be perfectly honest, but the players here really don't like to lose. There's another couple of players writhing on the ground there. Depending on what kind of player we're talking about, some players really pretty angry if they lose in training. A good example is always Manuel Neuer, who of course won't be joining the Bayern team in a while, but also Arjen Robben, players who really don't like losing in training. Manuel Neuer, in his case, it's more about conceding goals in training. He's super angry, furious even, with himself, with the whole world, and someone that you really have to be a little careful with after training sessions that didn't go his way. On the other hand, of course, if his team does win, if he does a good job and hardly allows any shots to pass, he's in a fantastic mood. Again, all a part of this competitiveness that you really need to show all your professional life if you want to make it at a club like Bayern Munich. Maybe just to finish that thought, of course, that's another fantastic opportunity for these young players, not only to show the new coach what they're capable of, but to simply learn from players like Franck Ribéry, like Philipp Lahm, that every session counts, every minute counts, and only if you really perform in every session. Here's a goal by Team Blue. Only then can you improve with every session. That's what Carlo Ancelotti had in mind when he said earlier that he is very much looking forward to playing with this squad, because he believes, and he says he knows, he actually repeated that, I know that these players are very professional, very serious, and I love professional and serious players. If you watch our live sessions on FCB TV or on our social media channels regularly, you will know that that is exactly what Carlo Ancelotti can look forward to. A very concentrated, very serious, very professional squad, which hopefully will also continue to be very successful. So I think by now Pep Guardiola would have lost his voice for the first time at Bayern Munich. You'll remember from the past training sessions how involved he was, how vocal, how outspoken, how he could hardly stand still and not comment on what was going on. Carlo Ancelotti seems to have a bit of a calmer approach to the whole issue here, observing what's going on. I'm sure looking very closely at what the players have to offer, and it is hard work. You can see on the left, just there in the background, Xabi Alonso, and also the youth players here, Fabian Benko, Philipp Lahm now, all of these players drenched in sweat. The exercises so far, not the most complicated, not certainly not the hardest training sessions any of these players have ever experienced, but in this weather it just becomes harder and harder, and I think the players are now enjoying their last well-deserved rest of the day. Looks to me as if this training session is slowly but surely coming to a close. Most players already have taken their shoes off. Arjen Robben doing some stretching here. They've been out for more than an hour, and I think in these temperatures, and again considering it's the first training session, that this might be enough. Unless I'm mistaken, I'd like to already use the opportunity here to thank you for watching and being a part of this first live training session here at Munich Säbener Street. Captain Philipp Lahm, and here is the confirmation. Captain Philipp Lahm already on his way to sign autographs with the Bayern fans. Again, as I mentioned, these live training sessions, or these public training sessions, I should say, are a great opportunity to come as close as very few fans do to the Bayern players. This was the first training session of the new season of the 2016-2017 season, and hopefully of a many year long era of Carlo Ancelotti here at Bayern Munich. The next one on FCB TV and on our social media channels already on Thursday, live at approximately 10:30 CET. That's AM, of course, in the morning. We'll bring you that session live, and a lot of games coming up. All the information you need is on our website. We will have more exclusive interviews for you as the weeks progress. For now, I hope you enjoyed this first little glimpse of a training session here at Bayern Munich, and if you watched a press conference earlier on with Carlo Ancelotti, I hope you will have been entertained throughout the day with the day one of Carlo Ancelotti at Bayern Munich. That's all from me. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week. Don't forget to tune in on Thursday, and then the first test game of Bayern Munich takes place on Saturday against Lippstadt. Exclusive highlights, of course, also on the Bayern website. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Ha ha ha.